happiness is one of those things that becomes more elusive the harder you try to catch it. Most people spend their entire lives chasing it through success, wealth, relationships, or personal growth, believing that somewhere down the line, after enough effort, they will finally arrive at the state of being happy. But this pursuit itself becomes the obstacle. The more you chase happiness, the more you reinforce the idea that it is something distant, separate from you, something that must be earned or discovered in the future. In truth, happiness is not a goal or destination. It is the natural fragrance of a life lived without resistance. The moment you decide you must be happy, you've already placed a condition on your existence. You've created an ideal image of what happiness should look like, how you should feel, how your life should appear, how others should respond. And in doing so, you've moved away from the simple contentment of being. It's like trying to make a calm lake calm by stirring it. The effort itself disturbs the peace. Happiness doesn't respond to force. It blossoms when effort dissolves. This doesn't mean you should give up on joy or stop caring about your life. It simply means you begin to understand that happiness is not the result of control or possession, but of alignment. When you stop insisting that life should be different from what it is, you begin to flow with it instead of against it. You find small, ordinary moments, sunlight on your face, the sound of laughter, the rhythm of your own breath, that quietly remind you happiness is not something to be achieved. It is something to be noticed. Trying to chase happiness is like trying to hold on to water. The tighter you squeeze, the less you have. It's not found in the next success or the next possession. It's found in the space between thoughts, in the quiet recognition that this very moment, just as it is, holds everything you've been looking for. The pursuit ends when you realize there is nowhere else to go, nothing else to become, no future state more valuable than the awareness you hold right now. When the chase stops, happiness naturally appears, not because you earned it, but because you finally stopped standing in its way. Unhappiness often begins with a quiet resistance inside you, a subtle feeling that life should not be the way it is. It's the mind whispering that something is missing, that this moment is not enough, that happiness lies somewhere just beyond your reach. You start to measure your reality against an imagined version of how things ought to be, and that comparison becomes the root of dissatisfaction. This resistance takes many forms: frustration, anxiety, boredom, or even ambition. But at its core, it's always the same refusal to accept what is happening right now. You see, the mind is always in motion. It is constantly judging, labeling, and comparing. When something doesn't fit the image it has created, it tries to change or escape it. You feel restless because the present moment rarely matches your expectations. You want more excitement, more love, more certainty. But life doesn't follow those demands. It moves in its own mysterious rhythm, and the more you fight against it, the more you suffer. This inner conflict, the battle between what is and what you think should be, is the essence of unhappiness. When you begin to notice this pattern, something remarkable happens. You start to see that your suffering is not caused by the world itself, but by your resistance to it. The traffic, the noise, the delays, the people who don't behave as you wish, all of it simply is. The pain arises not from those things, but from your insistence that they should be different. The moment you release that insistence, even slightly, peace begins to return. It's not resignation, it's clarity. You recognize that fighting reality is like arguing with the ocean. It exhausts you, and the waves keep coming anyway. To find freedom, you must learn the art of allowing. Allow the present moment to be what it is, without demanding it be otherwise. Observe it, breathe with it, even if it feels uncomfortable. When you do this, the tightness inside begins to loosen. You begin to see that happiness was never about arranging the world to fit your desires. It was about softening your grip on those desires themselves. The world doesn't need to change for you to find peace. The moment you stop resisting, you realize that peace was already here, quietly waiting beneath the noise of your expectations. The mind has a clever way of keeping us trapped in the illusion of more. It whispers promises of happiness just beyond the horizon. When we finally earn enough money, meet the right person, reach the next goal, or achieve the perfect version of ourselves, each time we approach that horizon, it moves a little further away. We spend our lives running toward the next thing, believing that fulfillment is waiting for us somewhere ahead. Yet it always seems to vanish the moment we get close. This endless pursuit is not living. It's a subtle form of chasing a mirage that was never real to begin with. We have been conditioned to believe that satisfaction is built on accumulation. More experiences, more validation, more recognition, more possessions. But every time we achieve what we thought would make us happy, the excitement fades, and the mind immediately sets a new condition. Now I'll be happy when. The pattern repeats endlessly, leaving a quiet emptiness behind each victory. The tragedy is not that we fail to find happiness, but that we keep looking for it in places it has never existed. This illusion of more keeps us disconnected from the richness of the present moment. When we constantly chase a future reward, we overlook the beauty that is already here. We forget to feel the warmth of sunlight, to listen deeply to the voice of a friend, to taste food without distraction. Life becomes a checklist instead of an experience. The search for happiness in external forms blinds us to the fact that joy arises naturally when the mind stops demanding more. If you watch a child playing, you'll see what freedom from this illusion looks like. The child isn't thinking about what's next. They're fully absorbed in the now. They don't need more. They're simply alive, and that's enough. But as adults, we've learned to equate enough with complacency, and so we keep running. Yet every pursuit, no matter how grand, eventually leads back to the same realization that no external achievement can permanently fill an internal longing. When you finally see through this illusion, something within you softens. You stop measuring life by gain or loss, success or failure. The compulsion to have more begins to dissolve, replaced by a quiet appreciation for what already is. In that stillness, happiness no longer needs to be pursued. It begins to unfold effortlessly, right where you are. Real happiness begins the moment you stop trying to control everything. Most people spend their lives trying to arrange the world to fit their desires, adjusting circumstances, people, and even emotions to create what they believe will bring peace. Yet the more you try to make life bend to your will, the more it resists. Life is not a machine to be operated. It's a flow, a current that moves with or without your permission. When you try to dominate it, you exhaust yourself. When you learn to move with it, peace begins to appear naturally. There is a quiet wisdom in letting go. It doesn't mean giving up or becoming careless. It means releasing the illusion that you are in charge of everything that happens. Control is born from fear. The fear that if you don't manage every detail, something will go wrong. But the truth is, Much of life unfolds without your interference. The sun rises and sets, the seasons change, the heart beats, and your breath flows in and out without effort. The same intelligence that guides these rhythms also guides your life. When you learn to trust it, you begin to experience a calm beyond understanding. Think of life as a dance. The purpose of dancing is not to reach a particular spot on the floor, but to enjoy each step, each turn, each moment of movement. But if you are constantly worried about leading perfectly or getting to the end, you forget to feel the rhythm. You stumble not because the music is wrong, but because you are thinking instead of moving. Life works the same way. It doesn't ask you to control it. It invites you to participate. When you let go of control, space opens up for spontaneity, for beauty, for joy. Things start to unfold in ways you couldn't have planned. The struggle softens, and in that softening, peace finds you. You begin to trust the process rather than forcing it. And that trust brings a lightness to your being. You stop seeing life as something to conquer and start experiencing it as something to dance with. Letting go is not the end of effort. It's the beginning of alignment. It's realizing that peace was never missing. It was only hidden beneath the tension of control. When that tension dissolves, happiness doesn't need to be created. It rises naturally, like a wave returning to the sea. Happiness does not come from what you achieve, collect, or become. It arises from a quiet awareness that exists beneath all of those things. Most people spend their lives identifying with the voice in their head, the constant stream of thoughts that says, "I'm not enough. I need more. Something is missing." That voice creates a sense of separation, a feeling that happiness is always somewhere else. But the deeper truth is that happiness was never outside of you. It's not something to be found through effort. It's what remains when the noise of striving finally fades. When you begin to notice your thoughts, instead of being consumed by them, a subtle shift happens. You realize that you are not the thoughts themselves. You are the awareness that hears them. You can watch them come and go like waves on the surface of the ocean, while something deeper and still remains untouched beneath. That stillness, that spaciousness, is your natural state. It doesn't need improvement, success, or recognition. It simply is. And when you touch that space, even for a moment, you discover a peace that no achievement can match. The world teaches us to define ourselves by doing, our accomplishments, possessions, relationships, and roles. But those things are temporary, and when they shift or disappear, the happiness tied to them vanishes too. Awareness, however, doesn't depend on any of it. It's the same whether you win or lose, whether you're praised or forgotten. It's the constant background of consciousness in which every experience arises and fades. To live from that awareness is to step out of the endless chase for validation and to rest in something unshakable. Happiness blooms naturally when you stop mistaking yourself for the restless mind and start recognizing the deeper presence behind it. This doesn't mean you withdraw from life or stop caring. It means you act from a place of wholeness rather than lack. When you no longer need life to give you something in order to feel complete, you become free. Joy starts to flow not because the world has changed, but because your perception has. The secret is not to accumulate more, but to awaken to what's already here. You are not a seeker of happiness. You are the space in which happiness appears. When that realization dawns, every moment becomes enough, and peace becomes as natural as breathing.